Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to NFR, and welcome back to SAFRL. Of course, we had the one day off Tuesday night, and now we're back again. This time for Tier 2, different set of drivers. Exactly the same layout, exactly the same rules. Of course, remember, no qualifying session tonight. Well, there is, just not the one you'd expect. Just a one-shot quali that'll apply to both races. So we'll get a one-shot quali for the sprint race and a separate one-shot quali for that feature race. So if you do finish at the back of the field in the sprint race, fear not. That does not mean you're going to be starting from the rear of the field. It's not going to set the field for the feature race. You're going to have a whole other qualifying session to do that. Now, this is not the easiest thing to commentate on, the easiest thing to keep track of. Basically, we can only really follow one driver at a time. Basically, look at that timing screen on your left. Driver that appears at the top is the driver that is currently fastest as things stand. But obviously, this can change multiple times before we get to the end here. Here we go. Trying to get to your leader, but every time I do, it changes. So at the moment, the order is Mercedes, Williams, Mercedes. And actually looks like it's just stabilized a bit. Those names are jumping around a lot. Second Mercedes obviously made a slight mistake somewhere. So everybody just gets the one shot. If you mess it up, if you invalidate it, that's it for you. Of course, usually we have an 18-minute session where guys can get around usually for 3, maybe 4 runs, depending on the circuit. Get some laps in. Things don't work, you go out, put on a new set of tyres to try it again, but in a one-shot quali, well, the name describes it all. Right now with the driver I think will take pole. He's been on top of that list for a long time, and he does take pole. Shane takes pole for the sprint race. We'll read the rest of the results because everything has disappeared from our screen, so when the official results come up. And there we go. So Shane, pole position for the sprint race. It's going to be followed on the front row by Notsumi and the Williams, then Pantry Star P3, Panda P4, Stoffel P5, Maggot P6, Spikes P7, Skull P8, and we have Boinkies, Top Gun, Chums, Rakwa, and J-Boy. And of course, reminder, unlike the feature race where the top 10 cars score points, in the sprint race it's just the top 8 cars, and it is for much less points. It's just really a bit of a bonus, but the one you want to win is that feature race, the second race of the evening. That's the one with the big points. Of course, now the drivers will be sitting to the right of us on the start-finish line, doing any adjustments. Not much to do in a sprint race in terms of adjustments. Really just decide what tire you're going to try and complete this race on. If I remember correctly, on Monday it was pretty much a medium field. I expect more of the same here. Here we go. We should get the green lights. And there we go. Green lights means we're off for a formation lap. Everyone gets one more opportunity to have a look at the circuit. Some of the guys wouldn't have done much practice before the race, and then they just got that one-shot quali. Be a little rustier than usual into turn 1. Can do is you can just quickly bring up that tyre screen, and there we go, the entire field on the mediums. Now formation lap coming. Well, they're halfway around. Shane will already be thinking about the start of the race. He's already started to think about turn 1. How's he going to approach it? Got to think of all the different scenarios, whether you're attacking into turn 1 or defending into turn 1. He's getting a little far ahead of the field. Doesn't want to get too far ahead of the field. Wants to back the field up. Don't want to sit out there on the front row for too long, waiting for all 20 drivers to park their cars. You can see there's is that a Williams or an Alpine? I think it's an Alpine at the rear of the field, and he's still a ways back. One of the things here on F124 that a lot of the drivers have complained about is tire temperature, getting those tires up to temperature, and just sitting in that grid box, letting the tires cool down. It's not optimal. It's not what you want. You want the best possible grip going into turn 1. You don't want your tires cooling down. Not the best camera angle, but that's going to be what we have to work with for the start of the race. There's your red light, and there's 5 of them. There'll be a pause. They'll go out, and there we go. We're underway. Mercedes versus Williams. That's Mercedes power versus Mercedes power, I was going to say, into turn 1, but I think Pantry Star has entered that battle. He has. He's gone side by side with the Williams, but looks like Notsumi's going to hold on to the position for now. The Pantry Star did show attack in the early stages. Then just behind him, Panda in P4 and Maggot P5. We saw him have a frustrating race in Monte Carlo not so long ago. Chased Panda for a majority of the race, just couldn't get past, but this is in Monte Carlo. So don't expect more of that. There's lots of DRS, there's lots of speed, there's lots of opportunities to pass. Of course, the circuit was originally designed for motorcycle racing. It's designed for MotoGP. And while it's very new to the F1 calendar, it's been on the MotoGP calendar for a very long time. I believe it was early 2000s. Of course, the one and only night race in MotoGP. Formula 1 took that night race idea and really ran with it. At the front of the field, Shane leads the way. The end of the first lap, so obviously he gets the purple because he's in front. Not Shumi, P2, doing well in the early stages, holding on to that lead and not letting him get away. Remember, the entire field on the same compound of tyre. Evening Skull, welcome. So you're also a spectator. Are you there on the well, why is your car ghosting, Skull? What's going on? Although what I can say is that Ferrari and that McLaren are not going to get more evenly matched than that. At the front, Shane leads, not Shumi. Half a second back. Then Pantry Star, still within DRS of the top 2. Panda, same situation. We've got a DRS train all the way down to P5. That's Maggot. Then a bit of a break. 1 second gap down to Stoffel. Then he's got a DRS train of his own behind him. Spikes, Boinkies, Top Gun, Chums, and J-Boy. And then the 2 disconnected cars at the rear of the field, P12 and 13. That is Skull and Rakwa. Remember, points only available to the top 8 drivers. Remember, just a sprint race. This will be 10 laps. Guys can really throw everything at the car, throw everything at these tyres. They're not really worried about tyre management. The mediums will make it very easily. Gets to the feature race, things change a little bit more. Got to worry about that tyre life, got to worry about managing it. Can't get to the end of the tyre, get to the end of the race with no rubber. Of course, just ask me, punctures are always the possibility. Your eyes on that tyre wear. Pantry Star just starting to lose touch there with the top two. So important to stay within DRS, especially on a circuit like this. You need to stay within the DRS, otherwise things are just going to become more difficult for you, especially when you have now formed a DRS train behind yourself, because you're the only one that doesn't get DRS in that scenario. All you have to play with is that battery charge. Luckily on this iteration of the game, charging that battery back up is so much easier. Of course the battery can charge every time you lift off the throttle. It used to be only when you applied the brakes. And then you'd find yourself in a situation where it was, if it was an incredibly fast racetrack, it would just take you forever to build that battery back up to a decent level. Shane still out front, Natsumi still P2, Panda made an overtake, has he, on Pantry Star. Pantry Star in P4, looked really attacking at the beginning of the race, looked like he was going to take P2 away for a moment. Then Maggot in P5, where he's been for a while. Spikes in P6, leading Ferrari. The other one has been disconnected. He should be back for the feature race. Then Stoffel P7 in the second Mercedes. Boinky's P8. Top Gun just outside the points. Remember, only the top 8 scoring points. So Top Gun right on the doorstep of points, just behind Boinky's. As for J-Boy, he's given himself quite a job if he wants to get himself up into the points. It's 3 seconds adrift from the next opponent. Final 2 cars. You should know the story with them. They have been disconnected. Hopefully both those drivers will return for the feature race. This feature race very different. Back to the normal format. Everybody has a pit stop. Everyone has to use at least 2 compounds. Start off with a much heavier car. Got to worry about things like tyre management. Do you underfuel in anticipation for a safety car? There's a lot more strategy at play. Sprint race is pretty straightforward, and if you can get away at the front and maintain that pace, and it's as easy as that, unless a safety car gets involved. In case you were wondering, which you probably weren't, on this channel, the record for safety cars in a sprint race is 2. And since we're looking at about 10 laps, well, that means more than half the race. Natsumi over the line. Got past Shane, but now Shane's got DRS immediately and he's come right back at him. So Shane back into the lead of the race. Natsumi led briefly, but he's shown for all these laps that he can stay with that Mercedes and keep on applying the pressure. Shane did make a mistake on that last lap, so he knows he's got him rattled. He's just going to keep on applying that pressure. Remember, they're on the same set of compounded tyre rather, so it's not like one is going to run out of rubber and the other is going to have a better tyre. This is a race on equal grounds. Nobody has a tyre advantage. This Panda still in P3. Pantry Star just behind him in the RB. Maggot close enough to see them. not close enough to attack them. We'll be looking to get in on that fight as well. And the only Ferrari that's actually out on track, Spikes, P6. Looking to get some extra points. Now this is something we saw on Monday night, and we're seeing a repeat of it now. On Monday night we saw it with Mango. Of course he was leading the sprint race. It was a very close sprint race, and then he landed up getting 6 seconds worth of penalties and falling down to P3 or 4. So Shane has picked up a penalty, as have 3 other drivers in the field. Most important one right now is, well, the man that's in the lead. He's only leading by half a second, and those penalties, well, it's 3 seconds apiece for Shane, Panda, Top Gun and J-Boy. You don't want to be adding any more to that. Of course, we saw one driver on Monday getting, I think it was 18 seconds worth of penalties. Thing is, when you get the one, then you get the other, then things just sort of go off the rails and they start multiplying. You get frustrated, you start making even more mistakes, start driving out of anger. And everything you practice goes out the window. Keep your cool. Having said that, you've got to be on your toes. Shane from Notsumi, Panda P3, Pantry Star P4, Maggot still in P5. The order hasn't switched up much. In fact, at the back the gaps have grown. Here we have a bit of a DRS train. Maggot P5, Spikes P... that's Maggot chasing Pantry Star and Panda. So that's actually a DRS train for the final podium position. As for the leaders, they have checked out. Shane and Notsumi. Just for the record, Notsumi in P2. I wonder where you got that, where you got the idea for a name. Not from me, surely. For everyone watching, you may come across a few not drivers. Just for the record, I was the first one. And now, as a result, most people think my name is Fernando. And I no longer correct them. Shumi versus Shane. Shumi in front for now, but Shane very close behind, and so he's going to have DRS available to him. This is the leader. Looking back at the leader. From the leader, you can see Mercedes looks pretty far behind, but trust me, one DRS zone changes everything, and he'll be right on the gearbox of this Williams. Of course, Qatar made its way to the F1 calendar when the F1 calendar was in desperate need of hosts. Stayed ever since. In fact, it has a 10-year contract extension, so Qatar will be on the calendar for a very long time. Go back to the Alpine in P3. Was under a lot of pressure. Now he's going to be under even more pressure because Maggot has cleared Pantry Star. He's broken that P5 that he's been sitting in for so long. He's now up into P4, and the man that chased him in Monaco is looking to chase him again. But first, he's going to have to shake off Pantry Star, and I don't think that's going to be easy because the RV's been there throughout since the start of the race. Even looked like he was going to take P2 at a stage. But Nochumi did well. Maintained a cool head, went side by side, took the inside to the next corner. So easy to get rattled when you don't have the best start. I'm not going to tell you now, Deathbean. Everybody calls me Fernando. Nochumi takes the victory from Shane. Just that gap looks pretty big, to 3.2 seconds between the two, but remember Shane did have a penalty, so the gap was just 0.2 of a second at the end. Maggot P3 almost claiming P2 there, but the gap between P2 and 3 was just large enough. Driver of the day and the winner of the race, Nochumi. Pretty sure he'd be hoping for an extra point for that driver of the day. It doesn't work that way. There's your official results for the sprint race. Nochumi takes the victory, Shane P2, then we've got Maggot P3, Pantry Star P4, Panda had that penalty, pushed them down to P5, then Spikes, Dwankies and Top Gun make up the points positions. Stoffel, Skull and J-Boy finish the race, but outside the points. And then Rakwa and Chums. Apparently Skull's disconnected car made it all the way up to P10. Good drive. Of course, now we're going to have a repeat of what you saw last time round. Guys will be probably having a timer, and then they will be getting on their way for their one and only qualifying lap. And then obviously that will set the order for the feature race. So if you had a fantastic sprint race, even if you won that sprint race, you could make a mistake on this lap and start at the back of the field for the feature race. In fact, I think it was Mango that started on pole for the sprint race, finished P4 as a result of penalties, and then in the sprint race, in the feature race qualifying, he had to start right at the rear of the field. Let's say I'm trying to get to the driver at the top, but every time I flick through, the drivers change order. So difficult to keep track of who is fastest. This is the man currently fastest, and as I say that, he goes down to P4 and then back up to P1. So not easy to keep track. Obviously you can just see one car at a time, and every time I flick through the camera, the screen's going to go black. Really, we just have to wait and see who's going to come out on top at the end of this lap. Can look to your left at the timing screen for some indication of who's quickest at this point. But remember, that can all change before we get to the start-finish line. Actually saw Shane falling quite far down the field, and now he's gone right back up the field. So that just shows you some of the drivers have different setups. They're going to be stronger in certain parts of the track, weaker in certain parts of the track. And Shane didn't look like he had a fantastic sector 2, but he's right back up there. I wonder if Nochumi invalidated because he's just been thrown to the rear of the field. So Shane, around the final corner, opens up DRS, and over the line a 121.9, takes pole as he did in the sprint race. This time he'll be hoping to hold on to that P1. There are your official results for quali, for feature race. Shane takes pole position as he did for the sprint race. Then Panda P2, Spikes P3. That's a good qualifying position. Pantry Star P4, Maggot P5, Stoffel P6, Skull P7, Oinkies P8. Then we've got J-Boy and Rockwell making up the top 10. And then Chums, Notsumi, and Top Gun, all invalidating their laps. Of course, same scenario as the last race. We're going to have just a moment here where guys are just doing the final tweaks to their setup. Then we're going to get the dual green lights and we're going to be off on a formation lap. And then after the formation lap, the fun and games end and the real deal begins. That's where you get the 25 points. That's the race you want to win. I'm just going to take a minute. I'll be back with you all in a minute. There we go, we're back. I didn't time myself, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't much longer than a minute. So now we get to have a look at the order one more time. On this formation lap, the entire field is Shane, Panda, Spikes, Pantry Star, Maggot, Stoffel, Skull, Boinkies, J-Boy, Rockwell, Chums, Notsumi, winner of the sprint race, starting from the rear of the field, and then Top Gun, right at the rear of the field. So just a little bit of track info. Track distance 5.4 kilometers, top speeds expected of around 320 kilometers an hour, 29 laps for the 50% race, around 16 turns, and no elevation change to worry about. Here we go now, we're just watching the grid form. Of course, if you do see any disqualifications, do not be alarmed. It's just drivers who haven't been able to park properly. The penalty they get is simply getting pushed slightly back in their grid box, which is obviously a disadvantage at the start, but no one at the front. Start on one of those, then the red lights, you know the drill, they're gonna go off, and we're gonna go off. Shane leads the way from Panda into turn 1, but Panda's had a fantastic run off the start and he's going to have the inside line, is he? But he backs out of it. Shane leads the way around the outside and into turn 2. The Alpine slots into P2, and then Spikes holding on to the position he started with, P3. Ooh, it's a mess. There's cars everywhere. Ferrari running well wide. That was Skull. in P7. There are your possible strategies, a 1-stop or a 2-stop. I'm not quite sure how that second one would work, but sometimes the predictions on this game don't make much sense. I mean, it is a prediction. You could do that if you really wanted to, but sometimes that ultimate strategy just leaves you scratching your head. Sort of like whatever the McLaren strategist was doing. Cost Oscar Piastri a race, and then cost Lando the race a few laps later. Trying to take the clown title away from the Ferrari mechanics. Shane leads the way at the end of lap 1. Panda in P2. Remember, Shane had a challenge all the way in that sprint race. He had Natsumi chasing him. They traded positions. Natsumi came out on top in that race. This time round, Shane also doesn't have it easy, but the opponent is a different one. He's got an Alpine just behind him. Ferrari as well, staying there, staying within DRS. I mentioned it on Monday night, and I've said it many times. DRS makes so much difference. You can have a driver ahead of you that is 3 to 5 tenths faster than you consistently every single lap, and that DRS just ensures that you can stay with him regardless of the lap time. Once you fall out of DRS, that 3 to 5 tenths adds up very quickly, and within a few laps you can no longer see your opponent. Ferrari now getting awfully close to losing that DRS. Needs to get close really on the gearbox of that Alpine, apply the pressure. Panda, he'll be looking for any sort of a mistake from Shane so he can get through. So he'll be looking to attack, and if that Ferrari comes up on the back of him, it's just going to add even more pressure. But Spikes needs to be close enough to make the most of a mistake if one does happen. Have broken free, these three. Have to go another 2.8 seconds down the road to find the next car. That's Pantry Star in the RB. He was quick in the sprint race. He's showing pace again now in the feature race. He's followed by Maggot and Natsumi. You know he likes this circuit. So we just saw what he was capable of in the sprint race. Now, didn't have the qualifying he would have wanted. I believe that was down to a invalidated lap. All it said was DSQ. That meant he had to start from the rear of the field. P12 I believe it was. He's made his way up to P6. So he's now halfway through that field. There are your positions gained, positions lost. Everyone in the top 5 exactly where they started. Shane, Panda, Spikes, Pantry Star, Maggot in that order. Then in P6 you've got Natsumi, who's made up 6 positions. That's right, he started in P12. Skull P7 where he started. Then J-Boy P8, Boinky's P9. Top Gun's also made up 3 positions since the start of the race. Nobody really a big loser. Speaking of positions gained, Natsumi got up on the back of that McLaren and he didn't want to be there for very long. He's gone for the overtake. He's made the overtake and he almost tried to make the overtake on Pantry Star. He's really looking to get on with things. Let's just have a look at your tyre situation. See who's doing what. That might explain Natsumi's pace at the start of the race. The only car in the field with a set of softs. Of course, he's going to be the first man in the field to have to make a pit stop because that rubber's going to fall off pretty quickly. But this is when he needs to utilize it. He needs to come through the order, and as I say that, it's a big one. Try and get a view of the car. Do we get a view of the car? I don't think we're going to get a view of the car. Nope, it's already disappeared from circuit. But not Shumi. Race winner in the sprint race. Eliminated from the feature race on lap 4. We have our first safety car. And the race is neutralized. Of course, Natsumi got his retirement almost live on stream. Just lost the camera angle at a crucial time. And then when we tried to look for the aftermath so we could see what that car looked like, it had already disappeared. So, Natsumi, not sure if you listened to the stream live or not, but if you are, let me know. Jump in the comment section, let me know what happened, let me know what went wrong. Was there a tap with another driver? Did you just lose it completely? Of course, it's an interesting pit stop because it's very early on, and a lot of the drivers out there, they would have been obviously thinking to go much deeper into the race. They're on a set of mediums, they're on a set of hards. No intention of stopping on lap 4 because, well, that tyre still has a very long job to do, and it's barely even woken up yet. So you have to stay out there, keep track position. It's too early to roll any dice. If you were to pit now, you'd come out at the rear of the field and everything would feel quite pointless. Got to stay out there, hold on to track position. If we have a safety car later on in the race, probably around lap 12 or 15, I think then you're going to see a very busy pit lane. Lots of guys doing different things, trying different things. When it's an early safety car, the only guys who utilize it for a pit stop are the guys that have some sort of damage. The part about that is they were at the back anyway. They're going to come into the pits, fix their wings, come out and catch the queue. So you'll still be last, but it's eliminated all those gaps. Rockwell almost passing Boinkies around the outside there. So important not to make any overtakes under safety car. Some penalties in the past. Even under virtual safety car, you don't want to fall asleep on that delta. I've seen lots of drivers getting penalties just as the virtual safety car ends. We are under safety car conditions. Mercedes in P1 and the Formula 1 Mercedes in P2. What is that team's official name? I believe it. What is it? Mercedes AMG Petronas Motorsport. Everybody gives RV a hard time for their name being terrible, but nobody calls Merc by their real name. I believe that is their real name. Mercedes AMG Petronas. Actually, that's their old name. Their name's slightly longer now, because it's also got Ineos in it. So I need to look that up and see what order that's in. Obviously now sponsors getting involved in naming rights of teams. We're getting some pretty ugly team names. Hopefully McLaren will always be McLaren and Williams will always be Williams. Obviously the two only traditional teams in terms of non-manufacturer teams that have been on the grid for multiple decades, Williams and McLaren. Both of them coming down to Guys that just wanted to go racing, scrapped together the money they had, and they went into the unlikely world of F1. Many failed. Frank Williams and Bruce McLaren made it happen. Safety car is over and cars are underway. Remember, no overtaking until the start-finish line. Let's get your info back on screen. Just thought I'd get rid of it for the safety car. Shane leads the way from Panda. Those two were close together in that first stint of the race until the safety car came out. Then Pantristar P3, he was starting to fall adrift, so he'll be happy with that, just brings him back. Maggot P4, J-Boy P5, followed closely by Boinky, Spikes, Rukwa and Top Gun. There's a McLaren just running wide over the curb. Stoffel P10, Chums 11, Skull at the rear of the field in P12. We've already got 2 penalties. I didn't even see that. I was just about to say, remember in the sprint race guys piled on penalties, this is a much longer race. And then I looked up at the screen and I saw 2 drivers already have penalties on lap 7 of 29. Those penalties, just for the record, are 3 seconds apiece for Panda and J-Boy. And they're gonna have to keep their eyes on that penalties column to make sure it doesn't increase any further, because it could be their race decider. Shane at the front, as he's been for much of the night, but hasn't really had a comfortable gap at any point in this night. There's always been someone close, always been someone attacking. In the sprint race, Notsumi got the better of him. In the feature race, he doesn't need to worry about Notsumi. Notsumi was the first and only retirement so far in this race. That doesn't mean the challenge is gone, because Panda has picked up that challenge. And Pantristar as well, not far behind. Maggot also doesn't want to lose contact. Stay within DRS, stay with those top 3. All of those drivers will be under pressure, all of them driving on the limit. Of course, these drivers don't make too many mistakes, well, not as many as me. Of course, we saw the races last week in Monaco. Guys constantly going around and around, getting as close to those barriers as possible, and not a lot of retirements. It shows you on certain tracks you're definitely going to stay within the white lines if there's a barrier there. In fact, we actually did get penalties at Monaco, so guys did find ways of cutting corners in Monaco. Where there isn't a barrier, cut the corner. Once upon a time in that Monaco layout, after the tunnel, that chicane, for a short period of time, actually had Armco barrier, and then it was thought that that was a pretty silly idea, and it was removed. But it was a much scarier corner. Shane's still out front. Panda still close enough to challenge, but he's got that penalty next to his name. Just plays mind games with you. Every time you think to yourself, oh, I'm having a really good race, then you just remember, oh damn, can't just win this by getting past. I need to get past and build a healthy gap so that I can hold on to the position it says on the screen. that was one thing that's been added to spectator mode, although it was added like 3 games ago. There was a time where all you could see was that the driver had a penalty. You couldn't see what it was. You had to go into the race director, but it wouldn't calculate it for you, 3, 6, 9 and so on. So you had to try and count, and lots of times my mathematics would get me back on that one. 9/10. This is probably the biggest we've seen the gap. This is the opposite of what Panda wants. Panda wants to get into the lead and build a gap. Now he's rather falling away from the leader. And now Stoffel picks up a 3-second penalty. We are on lap 10, so this was the race distance of the sprint race. We're a third of the way through this race. Lap 10 of 29. Shane still leads from Panda. Gap has slightly closed back within DRS. That's either because Panda responded or Shane made a mistake. Then Pantry Star P3, Spikes P4. Maggot has been solid the whole evening, just hasn't had that little extra to stay within the top 3. I think that might change in the second stint of the race, because look at his tyres. It's on a different strategy to those cars ahead of him. Cars ahead of him all on mediums. He's on a hard compound. He's going to go a little longer into this race, but much more importantly, if it means he's on the harder compound now, he's going to be on the softer compound at the end. So while his opponents have the tyre advantage right now, he's going to have the tyre advantage at the end. We get a caution flashing on our screens, but it disappears. Thank goodness for that. The leaders will be saying. Shane still from Panda, Pantry Star has lost contact with those top 2, and a DRS train has formed behind him. Pantry Star, Spikes and Maggot. All 3 of those drivers want that final podium spot. And Pantry Star is going to have his hands full holding on to that. Now we've got Spikes up into P4, Spikes up into P3. It was a traction race and he got better. Actually, somebody's come into the pits, but Spikes up into P2, Maggot P3. Now is the time of those hard runners, the medium runners starting to come in. Spikes is going to be slightly out of sync with the rest of those medium runners around him. Remember, he put those mediums on under the safety car. So while everybody else is going to have 4 laps more wear on their tyres than Spikes, so he might go a little deeper. He might put around about the same time as the hard runners. Really not going to be able to finish. So different strategies at play. Some drivers will be praying that the safety car stays away. Others will be wishing for a safety car to bring them back into this race. It's the 2 sides of a safety car. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. And if you ask the field, they usually all feel very different about it. Spikes in P2 still stays out, no pit stop, just 8 laps on those mediums, so he should still have a way to go. Maggot in P3, remember he's on hards. He's on hards, he's going to be going longer than Shane. I wonder when Shane is going to pit. He's got 12 lap old hards, and hopefully he doesn't get caught in an undercut. Goes around yet again. Have a look now, does he peel into the pits? It's 12 laps on the mediums. Nobody else has taken the mediums up to 12 laps in the field. Every other medium runner has stopped with the exception of Spikes. But like I said, he's out of sync. Slightly fresher mediums than everybody else. Skull has come into the pits, put on a new set of mediums. Panda also in the pits, new set of mediums. So that first stint of the race coming to an end. Now we're going to get into the second stint of the race after the pit window, but some of those cars haven't reached their pit window yet. Rockwell, Boinkies, Maggot, Shane all to do a pit stop still. Shane the only one of those cars to do a pit stop that is still on the medium, and as I say that, it's dived into the pits. So Spike's going to take the lead of the race briefly. Leads the way from Maggot. Maggot on the hard tyre. In fact, I think these two are going to pretty much lap in sync with each other. Remember that hard tyre is going to go longer than the other medium tyres, that's why all of them are pit, but Spikes has a slight tyre advantage on those mediums, so he's going to still go till about lap 11. That would mean 15 laps on the hard for Maggot. I think they're going to pit at about the same time. Or maybe Maggot will simply react to the Ferrari when it does pit. Another thing in the equation is we did have that safety car, so it does extend the tyre life just a little bit. Driving around really slowly, you're not taking anything out of the tyres. F1 car only comes to life at high speed. That includes the brakes, that includes the tyres. And those things are all cold. F1 car can be pretty useless. Chums with a 3-second penalty. Now we've got 5 drivers on penalties. Not sure if they're all 3 seconds or if anyone has accumulated more than that. It's 3 seconds for Panda, for Skull, for Chums, for Stoffel, and then 6 seconds for J-Boy. We've still got half a race to go. 13 runners started, 12 are still running. Caution in sector 1, but that is over. This is Rockwell. I was going to say in the leading McLaren, but no, he's not. The leading McLaren is the leader, Maggot. Said they pit at more or less the same time, but Spikes has come into the pits. He's put on a set of hards. That's the set he's going to finish the race on. Maggot, Boinkies and Rockwell, those are the 3 cars that are still on the tyre they started the race on. All of them on the hard compound. None of those medium runners that started the race are still on their mediums. That window has come and gone. Skull in P11 and Panda P12, they are going to have the mediums in the second half of this race. And then of course the only driver to start on the soft compound, and actually the only soft compound we've seen this evening, was Natsumi. Made up a lot of places in the opening laps, went from P12 to P5, and then a very sudden retirement. And we don't have details on that, so we don't know, was it a tap from another car, was it a simple mistake from the driver? But if you are on our Discord, I'm sure you'll find out. Order at the front has changed very much, but that's because of pit stops. I would say your provisional leader of the race has to be the man in P5. Everyone ahead of him on old hards. Stoffel and Top Gun, 11 laps on those hards, so they can still do a few more laps. Then Maggot and Boinkies, 15 laps on those hards. Now starting to get towards that window where they're going to be wanting to pit, and as I say that, Boinky dives into the pits. Top Gun has dived into the pits. Maggot stays out on track. 16 laps. Wonder if he's trying to take this down to lap 19, throw on a set of softs for the final 10 laps of the race. But would that still be a stretch? The sprint race was 10 laps and nobody tried it on the soft. But he's really extending this hard run. Wonder what his tyre percentages are sitting at, because nobody else out on circuit has decided to take things that far. 16 laps on the hard. Everybody else has made a visit to the pits. And Shane setting purple sectors. He's 14.5 seconds adrift from Maggot. Pit stop around here. Probably 23 to 25 seconds time lost. I'm just going to go with 22 to 23 seconds because that's what proved me wrong in Tier 1. I was expecting a 20-second loss in the pits and it was 23. Obviously that can also come down to how the driver approaches that speed limit line. Some guys back off way before, some guys try and brake right on the line. It's about how aggressive you are. But in that particular instance, it was around 23 seconds. So as things stand, Maggot would come out 10 seconds adrift from Shane. Stoffel in P3, making the Mercedes team look really pretty this evening, but Stoffel also has to make a pit stop. Gaps behind him not too spread out, which means he's going to fall down the order considerably. Maybe these guys staying out, holding on, hoping for a late safety car. I'm not sure what the case is, but every lap that Maggot stays out there, that gap is coming down between him and Shane, which means he's just going to come out lower down the order. He's going to give himself a difficult job in the second half of the race of having to make overtakes. We'll have the superior tyre, but if you're too far down the field, a tyre is not going to be too much of a benefit. Goes back to the normal format from the sprint race. The top 10 cars do score points. 1 point for P10, 25 points for P1. If you manage to pick up the fastest lap and you're also in that top 10, you get 1 bonus point. So if the winner takes the fastest lap, it's 26 points for the night, and whatever you got in the sprint race. J-Boy, 3-second penalty. Stoffel also has a penalty. Let's just try and bring up those penalties again. It's 3 seconds apiece for Stoffel, Chums, Skull and Panda, and J-Boy adding to his penalties, going up to 9. It's Mercedes 1-2. Then we have a Ferrari in P3, then Chums, then Pantry Star. Then we have all of our medium runners: Top Gun, Maggot, Boinkies, Rockwell, Skull, Panda, and J-Boy in the middle of all that on a set of hards. Doesn't look like he's enjoying that Alpine too much. Car really sliding out. There we go, slides out again just as I say it. Stoffel picks up another penalty. So it looks like we're getting all sorts of penalties all over the screen, but it's the same 5 drivers. We haven't added to that list. It's just the same drivers adding to their penalties. At the front, Shane leads the way. Maggot did eventually pit. Let's just have a look at the gap to the leader, and Maggot is 14.7 seconds adrift from the leader. Of course, so now it's not just about catching the leader. There's a lot of cars between you and the leader. You've got a lot of overtaking to make. Stoffel still out there, 15 lap old hards. Chums also 15 lap old hards. Those are the two drivers left not to have made a pit stop. Skull 1.5 seconds outside of the points paying positions. He has a penalty, but J-Boy has many more. So currently Skull, if things finished right now, if the checkered flag were to fall at this very moment, Skull would take that P10, would get a point for his evening, point for his troubles. Be a little bit disappointed he had to miss out on that sprint race. Always good points on offer. Some extra points never hurt. Shane out front, spikes P2. Now things starting to normalize as the last of the cars are coming into the pits. So nobody really out of sync with each other anymore. There is one guy, Chums, who refuses to come in. He's still out there on the hards. 16 laps on the hard compound. I'd love to know what the percentages are on those tires. But surely the strategy I predicted earlier for Maggot, stretching the tires, going onto the softs, he didn't do that. He went onto the mediums. But maybe that is exactly what Chums is trying to do. Go into the pits, put on a set of softs. But the problem for him is he's got a penalty next to his name, and those gaps behind him, they're not really big gaps. So he could yet come out outside the points with a penalty next to his name. So important to stay out of that penalties column. I just can't say it enough. Think of when you're going up against your rival, someone who just seems to match your pace. Doesn't matter the track layout, doesn't matter the night. Guys are always similar in pace, and when you have to race. I will be back with you in just a minute. Apologies. Okay, there we go, we're back. Sorry, my phone went nuts. So Shane leads the way. It's lap 22 of 29. Spikes P2, Maggot P3. And we've got Pantry Star still in contention for a podium. Top Gun, 5 laps on those mediums, also in contention for a podium. We've got Chums out of position in P17. Is he going to come into the pits this time? Surely. No, he doesn't. He stays out. 18 laps now on the hards. Of course, if you are running around on old tires, even if the car feels fine, even if you still feel in control of that car, if you don't pay attention to those timing sheets, you could be losing so much time to the cars behind that by the time you do pit, any advantage you would have gotten out of stretching the tires is long gone, and then you're left with an awfully fast set of tires and just too much work to do. Really looks good, the updated Ferrari livery with the prominent HP. Of course, HP were also a sponsor of the Williams BMW team. And before that, I think the last time we saw a company like that on a Formula One car, that would be the early 90s. The Williams was sponsored by Canon. Shane leads the way, as he did for so much of that sprint race. Penalties came back to bite him, and Nochimi didn't win it on penalties, he did win it outright. But this time, no penalties, no mistakes, 10-second lead. Just needs to bring it home for those last 5 laps. We do have a caution. Hopefully that's all it is. Somebody driving around slowly on the circuit. Still showing caution, but nobody seems to have slowed down. I think that's all it is. Shane very much in a race of his own. Spikes very much in a race of his own. Panda also with a 1 second gap down to Pantry Star, so we have to go all the way down to P4 to find the first car that's under any serious pressure. It's Pantry Star defending from Top Gun. And somehow, Chums, he still doesn't pit. So Chums did make a stop. My apologies. So Chums made a stop under that first safety car. And I wonder now, he's going to take those hards all the way to the end. I think it's going to be 24 laps on those hards. And if he's hoping for a safety car, he's running out of time, because we're almost in that safety car safe zone. Remember, 3 laps from the end, there's no more safety cars. Any retirements will simply disappear from the screen. There will be no more breakages in the race after, when there is just 3 laps remaining. Of course, unless we've got a red flag, but the red flag is switched off, so we shouldn't have any issues with that. Feel free to correct me in the comment section if it's not switched off, but I'm pretty sure it's switched off, or it's broken, because I've never seen one. Well, I did see one, and it kicked me out the lobby, but that was on F123. Pantry Star still P4, still absorbing the pressure from Top Gun. This is an RB defending from a Red Bull, not something you'd see too much of in real life. Trust me, if an RB was leading a Red Bull 4-track position, I think there'd be a call on the radio. Remember where you get your engines, remember where you get your funding. Calm down. Fortunately for the F1 drivers here, they don't need to worry about that. There's no Red Bull money. Although it would be lovely if it was. Of course, Red Bull have wanted to get into F1 for a very long time, and people think 2006 was the beginning of that journey. In fact, it was not. They wanted to get into F1, and at first thought they'd get into F1 as a sponsor. They did. They covered the Sauber, the Red Bull Sauber as it was known. But the Sauber just wasn't performing, and Red Bull wanted a little bit more. They wanted input at Sauber. They wanted a percentage of the ownership. And when Sauber said absolutely not, Red Bull decided there's only one way we're going to build championship. We're going to win championships, and it's not by being someone's sponsor. We need to build our own team. So of course they bought the Jaguar team, which was not doing very well at the time, and converted it into a championship winning team. And along the way decided, let's buy another. And they bought the almost bankrupt Minardi team, kept that Italian team afloat, and even gave it an Italian name at the time, Toro Rosso. Which simply means Red Bull in Italian. Not too much action out on track. This is really the only battle out on track. Pantry Star versus Top Gun for P4. Everywhere else out on track, gaps have begun to spread out. They've crossed the DRS threshold. So this is the only side-by-side potential action we may see. It's lap 28 of 29. Time is running out. Spikes has probably accepted that second place, and now he's just making sure Maggot stays far enough behind. Now the Red Bull looking for the pass. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Pantry Star holds firm. Maybe he wants a Red Bull drive. How do you get a Red Bull drive as an RB driver? Well, you beat the Red Bull. Well, that's not exactly accurate. RB drivers have beaten Sergio Perez this season, so this battle continues. This isn't for a podium, this is for P4. Maggot does have a penalty next to his name, but the last time we checked that was just 3 seconds. I don't think that's going to affect his position. He's got a 6-second lead to the car behind. Still a 3-second penalty. Everyone who got a 3-second penalty has maintained the 3-second penalty. Stoffel, 9 seconds. Is that correct? Yes, Stoffel on 9 seconds. And Chums, he's got 6 of his own. Everybody else on a 3-second penalty. Drivers who have not got a penalty: Boinkies, Pantry Star, Top Gun, Spikes, and Shane. Of course, Boinkies, if you're familiar with Boinkies, is actually very famous for that, not picking up penalties. Good to see Ralph in the comment section. Tell me, Ralph, what happened? Was there contact? Was it a mistake? We saw the start of it. Well, we saw you fly off. We just didn't see the aftermath. Not the best camera angle at that particular time. Shane goes around one more time over the checkered flag. Takes the victory. The victory he missed out on in the sprint race. Gets it when it counts. 25 points on the night. Then Spikes comes over the line. He gets a further 12 seconds down the road. Then Maggot. That penalty won't affect him. He holds on to P3. Top Gun P4. Pantry Star P5. And now we'll just await those final results. Everyone has crossed the checkered flag, just waiting for Skull and Panda. Skull will pick up a point. Needs to bring this car home, goes around the final corner, looks like he's getting terrible understeer. We'll be happy to get over the start-finish line. And there we go. confirmed P10, gets a point. Tonight was not for nothing. We just await Panda, and there he is. Some points in the night, looked like a race threat. By the end of the night, came over the line last. Driver of the day is Top Gun. And now we just await those final results. Stream is not broken. I just muted the game sound because F1 just want to copyright everything. Still waiting for those official results. Just a slight pause. And there we go. Took a while, but we got them. Shane, let's just get... There we go. So Shane takes the victory. Spikes finishes up in P2 for Ferrari. Then Maggot P3, Top Gun P4, Pantry Star P5, Boinkies P6. Then we've got Chums P7. They're followed by Stoffel, Rockwell, and Skull. Then Panda, J-Boy, and Not Shumi. No points on the night. Just for reference, Shane picks up 32 points for the evening. Maggot 21, Spikes 21, Pantry Star 15, Top Gun 13, Boinkies 10. So everybody collecting some nice points. Even Not Shumi gets 8 points for the evening, even though he retired early on in the feature race. It's a good thing about these sprint nights is you do get 2 opportunities. Of course, now we head off into Discord, and the top 3 drivers, as well as the driver of the day, are invited to the cool down room. If you'd like to come through, have a little bit of a chat about your race, I'll bring you into the comms box. Of course, you won't be able to access the comms box, so just join the cool down room and I'll bring you in. Okay, well, we do have Maggot, so let's bring him in so long. Okay, there we go. We have Maggot. So let's bring him in so long. Can just mute whatever you're listening to me on, because I don't want to hear myself twice. Maggot, how was your race? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was good. I started on the hards. I took a gamble, and sprint was tough. I don't know where Shane came from, who he is, but he's got some serious pace. Definitely not a tier 2 driver, I would say. But took a gamble on the hards, and in hindsight, should have put it maybe a lap or 2 earlier.
I'm gonna bring him in here so you can ask him yourself. There we go.
A bit long, guys.
Hi Shane, how's it going?
Alright, thanks, and you guys?
I'm alright.
Did you miss the tier 1 race, or to join the tier 2 one?
that if Shimi didn't get disqualified, he would have been challenging me to the end there.
Now look, he was very quick. I mean, he started P12 and I think he was on P5, and then he triggered that safety car. So he made up 7 positions in like 4 laps.
Yeah, so, he just lost the rear.
Yeah, he was on the soft. He was moving.
Yeah.
Shane, and your race, you lost that. You got close in the sprint race, but the penalty would have cancelled it out anyway.
Yeah. The penalty happened one of those laps again where you get like three warnings in one lap. A silly lap, and then but yeah, Shumi had the pace there. I honestly think if he did not invalidate his quali lap, he would have been up here.
Then we also have Spikes.
Hello, hello.
Spikes, how did you enjoy Qatar?
No, it was quite a nice race. I had a lekker pace. I did a first pit stop under the safety car. I caught up. I think I dropped to P7, P8. Then I caught up, but yeah, I was too slow to catch Shane at the end. I was held up a little bit. I think it was Stoffel that kept me behind a little bit, and Shane managed to just
Some
get that gap.
team
Yeah,
orders, some undercover team orders there by Mercedes. Some
but it was a good race. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
But to be honest, I mean, when I overtook my teammates, we almost crashed into each other. So
I actually
Damn.
we didn't see that, but
yeah, very
you,
close.
yeah, when Mercedes' biggest foe was Max Verstappen, and you know what triggered Max Verstappen?
Aye.
Was it's two Mercedes colliding. That's what started his victories. So
Spain, 2016.
2016, he won his first race, and it was as a result of the two teammates taking each other out. But
Yeah.
so yeah, they opened that box on themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, if they had carried on winning and he hadn't have won that race, he probably would have got fired after 5 races, because that's how Red Bull does things, and we would have never had Max Verstappen. So, but yeah, so that was Qatar. Who of you guys are racing tomorrow night?
I'm
Uh,
racing LSA.
We
I'm
have
racing at PRS tomorrow night.
DRS tomorrow night on this channel, and that's going to be, where are we racing tomorrow night? We're racing in is it Japan?
Japan,
So,
yeah.
so we'll be back tomorrow night for the viewers. I'm just going to end the stream real quick, but we'll be back tomorrow night with DRS, and then of course we'll be back on Sunday with SKR. And until then,
cheers.
cheers.
I see.
Nice.
Yo, maggot.